All righty. Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Let's see. Let's make sure everything's going correctly. And I will pop up what I've got here, get in the studio. Let me make sure. Oh, hold on. Looks like it's working. Looks like it's working. So give me a second here. Let me make sure everything is ready to go. And then we will obviously get into this. Give me 1 second. Got to make sure we're set. Looks like we are. All righty. I'll give people a moment to roll in here so that we don't start with anyone who's waiting. Nobody can miss it. And we will get into it from there. Obviously, we all know why we're here. I'm going to say a little bit before we get into the book and all that stuff. Let me get comfortable for a second. And we'll just get into it from there. We'll let everyone roll in, get active in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you read the book. Let me know if you are aware of everything that's been said. I've got a list here. If I miss anything and anyone brings it up, let me know. I will add it to the list and address it. And I just ask everyone, have an open mind. There is a lot of stuff to go through. There is a lot of stuff to break down. And I'm going to do my best to explain the book, The Fort Bragg Cartel, my thoughts on it. If you read the book, let me know in the comments. I will be keeping an eye on it. As always, the super chats are appreciated. But yeah, so that's why we're here. I'll give everyone a minute to keep rolling in here to make sure nobody misses anything. Nobody feels like they get behind. I see we've got people from Missouri, Pittsburgh. We've got people already saying Delta Force, no such thing. So I just give it a couple minutes so that nobody feels like they are being left out. I know there's going to be guys from the unit who are watching this. If you have my number and you feel like I'm missing something or not hitting it 100% correctly, let me know. And I will, of course, adjust with any new information that comes in. So why are we here? What brought us here? What is this Tuesday night live cast about? We know that this episode of the Tuesday night live cast is going to focus heavily on Seth Harp's book, The Fort Bragg Cartel. Now, we do have some other stuff we'll address after that, and I hope you guys stick around for that as well. But obviously, the book is the main priority here. I want to start off by saying that Seth Harp has, without question, his First Amendment right to freedom of speech. Seth Harp has the right to argue whatever he wants to argue, present facts that he finds, presents information that he finds, but everyone also has the ability to analyze what he has said, reach out, figure out what's credible, what's not. So this is not attack on the First Amendment. This is not saying anyone can't write books. In fact, writing books is incredibly difficult, and anyone who writes a book should be applauded for at least a minimum of accomplishing it. You know, most people aren't published authors, right? Not an easy thing to do. And I don't know Seth Harp that well. We've engaged on Twitter a little bit. I am hoping that maybe he will join me maybe next week and we can go through this together. I'm sure he's going to see this and he can have the opportunity to address my skepticism of some parts of the book. I will tell you, there are, without question, parts of the book that I do believe are 100% accurate. And I want to get that out of the way up front and at the top. I believe there are parts of this book where Seth Harp, without question, is 100% telling the truth. And when he's telling the truth, and it is 100% real, he deserves to be applauded for that as well. At the same time, there are parts of the book and claims that have gone viral that I do not believe to be accurate, or I do not believe enough evidence has been presented where they are beyond being questioned, if that makes sense. So that is the goal. I'm going to give you my read of the situation. I'm going to give you my belief of what is accurate and what is lacking enough evidence for me to believe. So I will tell you that I have done a ton of research, spoken to a ton of people, talked about a lot of different things. And there is a lot to unpack here. Also, please understand, due to YouTube restrictions, I'm not able to just sit here and show you pages of the book. I can show you excerpts that are online that everyone has public access to. And if you want to read the book, go buy the book, right? And the book is selling incredibly well. Why is it selling incredibly well? Because it's talking about an organization that doesn't technically exist, right? So there's going to be public intrigue. There's mystery around it. People want to learn about a world that they don't know much about. It makes perfect sense why the book is selling well. And credit where credit is due. If Seth Harp's goal was to sell a bunch of books, he is accomplishing that. But again, there are parts of the book that I am skeptical of. So I will tell you the parts of the book that I struggle with the information that has been presented. So, and at the same time, if I see something that I believe is accurate, I'll tell you that as well. It makes no difference to me in the terms of we're going to be fair here for sure. So let's start with maybe the claim that has gained the most attention. Maybe the claim that is the most, I don't know if salacious is the right word, but maybe is the most, you kind of just pop up and you think, wait a second, could that be true? So in the book, one of the main figures, if not the main figure, I would argue the main figure, is a former Delta Force operator named Billy Levine. Billy Levine is a real person. Billy Levine did kill his best friend. That is 100% true. Seth Harp is 100% accurate when he claims Billy Levine had serious issues. There is no question that is true. No question whatsoever. There is no question that Billy Levine shot and killed his best friend, whose first name was Mark. I think his last name is pronounced Lekashare or something like that. I probably can't get that. I'm probably mispronouncing that. It is a fact that Billy Levine was then shot and killed along with another person. These are indisputable facts. And he's not wrong about that at all. He's 100% correct. There is a part of the book. Now, I have the book on Kindle, so the page numbers might be different here, but I'm going to tell you the page so you people that want to buy the book or have already bought in the book can flip to those pages and see what exactly I'm talking about. So on page 10, Seth tells a story about this Belgian Malinois named Rocky. Okay, this is Billy's dog as it's presented. And it's alleged the dog's teeth were titanium dentures, and they eventually become removed because the dog was violent and had been essentially accustomed, is the exact word, to human flesh. Okay, this is the claims made in the book. I'm paraphrasing, I'm summarizing. You've probably seen this all over the internet. And that as a treat, it would eat human brains. Now, this comes from a woman close to Billy Levine. That is the source of this information. The woman's name is Nicole. And he allegedly told this story to her, who then obviously repeats it. It ends up in the book. There's a couple things that pop off the page to me about this story. Number one, I spoke to a veterinarian who explained to me that messing with a dog's teeth in such a manner is highly counterproductive, and that it doesn't do you really any benefit at all to have a dog get titanium teeth. In fact, it would have the exact opposite effect because of how the teeth are impacted essentially in the jaw. Once you start messing with them, the dog is going to lose its bite power. So there's that. On the human brains part, I spoke to multiple people in the unit, multiple unit dog handlers. Nobody has ever heard of such a thing ever occurring. Okay. Here's how it was explained to me. And again, all I'm asking you guys, keep an open mind, think about what you guys want to think about, and you make your own decisions. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm telling you the evidence. A dog is not going to get addicted to the taste of human flesh at any point in time for any reason. It's not possible. These dogs have what is referred to, I believe, as a prey instinct. What does that mean? That means that the dog's only driving force for when it is going to attack something is when it views something as a threat, right? So, having said that, you could not, my understanding, ever get a dog to get accustomed to the taste of human flesh. That's not how it would work. It either has the prey instinct or it doesn't. And if the dog doesn't have the prey instinct, it's cycled out, and a dog that does stays. For those of you who don't know, most unit dogs, when they retire, according to multiple unit members, go on to live the rest of their life with their unit handler. And they live totally normal lives. They're totally peaceful. They're not out of control, violent animals. Now, I do want to maybe extend a little bit of grace or an olive branch with this story. Is it possible that Billy Levine told this story? Billy Levine, someone we know, had a litany of issues, told this story thinking it sounded badass or that it sounded cool, and people believed it. Absolutely, it's possible. 100% possible that is the source of this information. Does that mean it is true? No, it doesn't mean it's true. It just means Billy said it. And if you read the book, one of the main themes of the book is that Billy Levine was a highly unstable person who struggled with a lot of things. And I'll give Seth credit. Seth did not write about Billy as if Billy was walking around a dark demon, as a inherently evil guy. In fact, I think one of the things Seth did well throughout the book is he comes off as empathetic. That Billy Levine, in Seth's reporting, was caught up in circumstances, had struggled with things, and just did not want to end up where he was, which did surprise me a little bit, to be honest with you. I did not think that's what Seth was going to do. But Seth does take a very empathetic tone in multiple parts of the book. The dog thing to me is a red flag. And unless someone can show me videos, and if they exist, I'll be happy to show them to you. They'll probably have to be censored. If they exist, that is something I'd be more than happy to look at. But from a science level and an animal level, as it's been explained to me, not at all how it works. Doesn't make sense on the surface from the medical community, the veterinarians, or from actual dog handlers. Now, let me say this as well. Have dogs killed people in war? Have dogs seriously injured people in war? 1,000%. No question about that. It's been talked about publicly by other people. There's no question that military working dogs have absolutely killed and seriously hurt people in combat. Were they eating human brains? Were they addicted to the taste of human flesh? Is that a story Billy Levine told that wasn't true? Keep in mind, Billy Levine had a lot of problems in his life. So that's point number one that I struggle to believe. There is another allegation involving Billy Levine that is a minor detail about when Billy gets released from jail. And in the book, it alleges that multiple vehicles are waiting for him to get picked up. This is after he has shot and killed his best friend. And the words specifically and I'm keeping what I'm going to read to you short because it would be unfair for me to just read you a guy's book. Also, video wouldn't be allowed to see it, was that these guys are above the law. They can do what they want. The law doesn't exist for them, and they're, quote, black ops assassins. Everyone I've talked to in the unit says they've never once assassinated anybody. The word assassination, by my count, appears in the book, and I wrote it down here in my notes. It appears more than 30 times in the book. Why is that important? Assassination goes to intent, right? In order for it to be an assassination, it has to be a targeted killing, right? It has to be, the intent is we are going in to kill these dudes. Full stop. Generally, there's also a political motivation, right? That's why when a president is killed, you hear about it as an assassination. That's what an assassination is. In fact, let me see if I can just pull up the dictionary definition of it. All right. I'm going to put this up on the screen so you guys can all see this. Share screen. Assassination. All right. So as you can see here, the definition states to murder an important person in a surprise attack for political or religious reasons. So there you go. That means the intent going in was to kill them. They were never going to take them alive. They were always going to shoot them. Why is this important? Most operations that Tier 1 units run are what's called capture kill missions. Outside of the most extreme circumstances. And everything they do at the Tier 1 level is still subject to legal review. They have criminal investigators who are attached to the unit and work outside the unit's authority. They report to their bosses, right? They have JAG officers who sign off on everything they do. Everything they do. They are not allowed to operate outside of those laws and rules laid down by JAG officers. As the Army told me in an official statement, those rules and operations are all within the legal laws of war and ground warfare, combat, whatever it might be. That's what the lawyers are there for. Yes, does Delta Force kill bad guys? Absolutely, no question about it. But when you frame things as an assassination, the reader reads that, or that they are assassins, reads that, and the common sense interpretation is every time they roll up on a target, they are just killing everyone they come across without mercy, without remorse. Everybody dies who is on this said assassination list. Make a mental note of that. We'll be coming back to it. The reason the pickup story, which could be true, I'm not hanging my hat on that. I'm not putting everything on the line saying it's not true. Tier 1 operators aren't really supposed to be in the public eye, right? Not something that makes a lot of sense. The unit doesn't want their names out there. The unit doesn't want their faces out there. In fact, they go to great lengths to conceal that information. Logically speaking, does it make a lot of sense for a bunch of operators to go outside a police station and massive vehicles and draw attention to themselves? Very easily could have happened. If it did happen, everyone involved is an idiot, to put it as simply as possible. Again, a little bit of a red flag, but a minor red flag in the grand scheme of things. Now, I do want to give Seth Harp credit for something he did note. And this has been public information. This has been written about by other people. I believe Pete Blaber even talked about this in his interview on the Anti-Hero podcast. I'll have to go back and watch, but it's been talked about before. And that is the mysterious terrorist turned government witness, cooperating witness, whatever you want to call him, Ali Muhammad. Pete Blaber was a Delta Force officer, highly respected Delta Force officer, wrote a book called The Men, the Mission, and Me. His dudes loved him. He was in Afghanistan. He was highly involved in the opening phases of the war, the first several months. I believe he was directly involved with Operation Anaconda, the Battle of Tora Bora. Pete Blaber's a legit dude. He's not a BSer as far as I can tell. He's not a guy who just makes things up. In the book, Seth does talk about Pete Blaber meeting with Ali Muhammad. 100% true. 1,000% true. We know it's true because Pete Blaber has admitted to it. Pete Blaber is on the record that that did occur. So on that point, Seth Harp got it right. 100% right on that. No question about it. And another thing Seth Harp got 100% correct and deserves credit for is he talks about a Delta Force operator he tells the story of a Delta Force operator that shot and killed in I can't say the word, starts with an S, you know what it is, after returning from Afghanistan. The guy's name was Brandon Floyd. Also 100% true, 100% happened, caused serious significant issues at the unit. I told you guys I was going to give you guys, when he got it right, he got it right. Both parts, both of those people mentioned in the book, and they're, minor-ish details, Seth Harp was 100% right about. 1,000% right about. That's been publicly reported. You can read about that Delta Force operator. There's tons of news articles out there about it. You can read about Pete Blaber meeting with Ali Muhammad. 100% true. No problems with any of that. But here we're back to some issues. So this is in the 5th chapter. It's titled, the title chapter is Pipe Hitters. And he describes JSOC as a blood-drenched, amphetamine-fueled killing machine it would later become. Now, again, I'm not going to read you the whole segment. If you want to read the whole book, go buy the book. If you already read it, let me know about what you thought in the comments. Again, this is highly incendiary language. Referring to people as blood-drenched, amphetamine-fueled killing machine, the organization they're working for, is language that immediately comes off as sensationalist, as trying to be over the top. Do we really believe, and as someone who read the book, I'll just tell you, I do not believe most Delta Force operators, or even the majority of Delta Force operators, were hopped up on every drug, amphetamine, whatever it might be, out there as part of a blood-drenched killing machine. I find that very difficult to believe. Insanely difficult to believe. And while we're on that subject, now would be a good time, I think, for this clip, which I will put on the screen for you so you guys can see it. And a handful of people talk to me about this, how this works. And let me get it up here for you. All right. Let me put it up on the screen. So this comes from Seth Harp's interview with Tucker Carlson. As you guys know, Tucker and I go back years and years and years. He was my first ever boss out of college. And obviously he's doing his own thing now. He interviewed Seth Harp before this video, as you can see on the screen. And Seth makes a claim in this video in relation to Billy Levine smoking a certain drug. And it's not that claim in and of itself that, again, set off a red flag, but what kind of came next as the conversation unfolded. And I think you're going to see even Tucker's a little surprised here, but let's watch what he had to say.
And I learned that that's not that unusual. Delta operator is doing a lot of other substance abuse issues, very severe. He was smoking crack every day and doing a lot of other drugs as well.
Wait, while he was a Delta operator, he was smoking crack every day?
Yes.
See, and you can see Tucker's got a little bit of surprise on his face because that's a crazy claim. Now, is that true with Billy Levine? It absolutely 1,000% could be. again, I'm not here to defend Billy Levine. I'm not here to convince you Billy Levine was a good guy or that he wasn't involved in serious substance abuse issues. If there's one thing Seth's book seems to have been drilled down the most on, it is things related to Billy Levine. It's what comes next where things are going to get a little spicy.
And I learned that that's not that unusual, to my surprise.
My understanding was, in your description suggests that these guys are like basically Olympic athletes whose physical condition is going to be monitored, I assume, by the unit doctor or somebody.
Well, operators have a particular type of physical fitness that you really only find in the Army, which is the kind of guy who can, run a 2-mile run in 12 minutes, but also smoke a pack a day. And get drunk 5 times a week.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very,
just
very
savages.
This is just savages. Yeah. So,
okay. Obviously a very serious claim that he says he's not surprised that it wasn't that uncommon. Let me check the transcript to make sure I got his exact words right. I don't want to misquote him. Let's see. Let me pull the exact quote for y'all. Yeah, he says, I learned that that's not that unusual, to my surprise. Okay. I asked everyone who would speak to me whether or not it was common or not that unusual for Delta Force operators to be smoking. Again, I don't even know if I can say the word. And without question, half of them laughed at me on the phone. But then one guy brought up a good point. You are drug tested as an operator in the unit at least once, if not twice, on a semi-regular basis. And the drug tests are randomized. You're not supposed to know when they're coming. And if you fail a drug test, you are almost always, without question, given the immediate boot. So if you're going to say it's not that uncommon from a journalistic standpoint, you need to bring overwhelming evidence to the table. You need to bring many names, maybe drug test results, whatever it might be. These guys train all day long. It's what they do. I'm not a drug expert by any stretch of the imagination. I'm fairly certain doing the job they do, CQB, breaching, long-range shooting, you name it, is not going to be very easy if you are under the influence of narcotics or other serious substances, whether it be alcohol, whatever it may be. Incredibly serious claim. I'm going to need to see more evidence that these guys are, it's not uncommon for these guys to be doing that kind of stuff. So what do we got here? All right. Sorry, the computer's taking a second to go. What are we doing? Come on. All right, there we go. So then again, he talks about his own experience being overseas. He did deploy. That's 100% true. No question about that. Yet again, this is now another reference to assassins. We've gone over this. What does that mean? Are these guys assassins? Do they just kill people for no reason whatsoever? They would tell you no, that they operate 100% within the rules of engagement. Again, their words, they dispute that fact or that way of describing them entirely. He also in the book, and this is the chunk of the book that really focuses most on the unit, refers to Abu al-Zakari, Musab al-Zakari, as a boogeyman, dopey, whatever it might be. That dude was a bad dude. And I know there's been serious debate about how dangerous he was, what role he had. Talk to any Delta dude you want from that era of the GWAT, and they will be the first to tell you that when they ran into that guy's dudes, That's where the worst fighting was. They weren't just a ruffian gang of street criminals. They were hardened fighters. So, again, it's one of those things where it's just the way it's described to me is a bit of a red flag. But this is where things are going to get where the unit members really reject the way some of this stuff is characterized. Talking about hit list, targeted killings, clandestine killings, and just all that stuff for me is a little bit tough. Now, I can show you this because this was released in Wire magazine. So it's not, here we go. Let me throw this up on the screen. We'll add this to the stage. So this was an excerpt published in Wired magazine. It says, from now on, Iraq would be a war of targeted killings carried out clandestinely, almost always at night. Seth, there's a little bit of truth to what Seth is saying here. A little bit. Yes, did the unit prefer to operate at night? 110%. That's accurate. Why did they prefer to operate at night? Because they have tools and technology at their disposal that gives them a clear advantage when it comes to nighttime operations. What is that? They've got night vision and the bad guys don't. They can see and the bad guys can't. Not only that, their helicopters got infrared. Every tool in their toolbox is better at night. So yes, you are going to fight at night. That is true. The question is this stuff right here that I'm going to highlight, the find, fix, finish, exploit, analyze, and disseminate, which was the F3 EAD cycle, is it what he describes? He says, despite the ungainly initialism, the F3 EAD cycle was not a complicated concept. It typically meant tracking down a target, killing them, and every adult male and teenage boy in the vicinity, seizing every piece of paper and electronic device found on their persons, and using these materials to come up with more names to add to their hit list, and then killing them too, sometimes just a few hours later. I can tell you with complete certainty, everyone I spoke to, which were multiple different guys, including tier 1 operators from other organizations, the Navy side specifically, wholly reject, 100% reject his framing of this, that they were going on targets and, quote, killing him, the main target, every adult man and teenage boy in the vicinity. They all, to a T, say that everyone got a vote, bad guys included. You come out, hands up, you're not getting shot. They might throw you to the ground, put you in zip ties, and take you when you don't want to be taken. But they're not killing people just because they're on a location. Most of the operators said shots were fired less than 10% of the time. One says it's probably truly less than 5% of the time. Why is that? It's because they're so fast and so good at their job that it's over before the bad guys even realize what has happened. And there are guys who've said this publicly. Multiple Delta Force operators have said that publicly. This is not a new thing we're learning together tonight. Shootings on target were incredibly rare. Did they happen? Did bad guys get killed? Absolutely. No question about it. Was it a kill everyone mentality? They 100% deny that and say that is not what happened. In this part, he says, we are not death squads, quoting Stanley McChrystal, but armed with NSA intercepts backed by newly developed Reaper drones and joined by fierce Kurdish mercenaries called Mohawks. That's exactly what JSOC became during the covert surge in Iraq. Again, citing death squads. It further says the body count from Delta Force's killing spree and the proportion of Iraq's hundreds of thousands of war dead who were gunned down in JSOC night raids will never be known because it wasn't recorded in the first place. That these events are lost to history and photographic record was by design. Not true. Not true. In fact, I can tell you with complete certainty that almost every mission Delta Force ran was filmed. Not only were the missions filmed, the missions were watched by several people on ISR that the operators had no control over. Why is that important? That's important because if you were doing mass killings outside the rules of engagement, everybody with access to the video feed would have to be in on the cover-up. Everyone in the talk, everyone at headquarters, everyone stateside, the people operating the ISR, everyone would have to be in on it. You are talking about dozens, if not hundreds of people that would have access to this video. And if they saw people committing what would effectively be war crimes, shooting people not actively fighting or who are not actively a threat, is not allowed. That would violate the law. And there have been soldiers in the history of the U.S. military who have shot people and killed people not actively engaged in threatening behavior or hostile intent and went to prison for it. We know this. We know this to be a fact. So the U.S. has convicted people of violating these laws. You have to believe that that means that everyone was in on it and nobody spoke up. No one leaked it to the press. Nobody did anything. That's a red flag for me. I don't believe that many people can keep a secret. You know the old saying, two people can keep a secret if one of them is dead? Now imagine this is allegedly happening night after night after night after night after night. Later in this, let me pull this down. Got to get back to my notes. Also referred to in that article, I missed it actually in that article. At least I think it's in this article. Let's see. Well, now it doesn't want to work. Okay, I'm going to put this back on the screen. Again, it's the language he uses that is important here. He talks about nighttime wet work. What is wet work slang for? Slang for assassination. And let me see if I can. Here we go. This is the Wikipedia page. We'll put this up on the screen. Wet work is a euphemism for murder or assassination. So again, this goes back to intent. If you shoot people who are not active threats, that is illegal. You cannot just go on target and kill everybody because you want to. And if you're ordered to do that, that's still illegal. Mass killings of unarmed or non-threatening individuals is not allowed. It is outside the framework of the laws the United States has, the laws of war. We do have a super chat real quick. All right, let me see. What do we got here? Papa Penguin, $20. Thank you very much, Papa Penguin. Harp's book may start near truth, but runs off the rails. SOF, drug abuse and behavioral issues. Open secret. Levine tied to criminal orgs. Some TFs failed to deconflict, but mass unalivings and smoking, you can read that word, get the F out. So, yeah, I mean, we're going through it. I'm telling you guys, keep an open mind. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm giving you my viewpoint of different parts of the book. All right. I want to make sure. All right. So he also talks about patches. Actually, let me do this first. He talks in the book about guys being disguised with a variety of different things. Wigs, prosthetics. I actually think this is in the Wired magazine, so I think I can show this. Yes, it is. All right. I'm going to put this back on the screen. Let me know if that's up there for y'all. So right here, he talks about people posing as Red Cross personnel, United Nations inspectors, Western businessmen, European diplomats. And with the help of female support soldiers, they passed themselves off as husband and wife pairs. Again, there is some kernel of truth here, is my understanding. What's not true is nobody has ever heard of U.S. operators undercover as diplomats from European countries. If such a thing happened, we need overwhelming evidence. We need documents. We need photographs. We need more than this, because that's a serious claim. What you're alleging with that is that U.S. military forces are disguised as members of a different nation to go out and take people out. Now, I do know Seth has shared, and it's in the footnotes of his book, which we'll get into something else here shortly, photos from Delta Force operators. And I think correctly or incorrectly assumes because of the way people dressed, they must have been doing specific things. Again, photos by themselves are not evidence of anything other than people were dressed a certain way. Doesn't mean they were out unaliving people. Doesn't mean they were carrying out mass, killings or whatever. They're photos. We need much, 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 much more proof. Later in this article, he alleges, and this is where things got a little bit interesting to me, that a former operator, and it reads a little weird. It's not in this article, so I can't show you. But let me pull this off the screen. In the book, he alleges of a retired, I believe, master sergeant being on a certain substance, and it's quoted. The problem with that is I went to the footnotes to look for where that quote had originated from, because I was going through the footnotes checking, hey, where'd this come from? Where'd this come from? Shawn Naylor's in there a bunch. Pete Blaber's book is in there. When I go to click, because on the Kindle version, you can click and it takes you, right? So you can see it. The citation for that is a book by McRaven. It's McRaven's special book about being in special operations. And it's cited to page 201, I believe. And let me see. Let me just make sure I got that right. Give me 1 second, because I don't want to be wrong about this. I want to give everyone, I want to make sure I got this 100% right. So just give me a second. But I'm fairly certain that's what it is. All right, let me look up McRaven's book. And I will tell you the name of it. He's written a lot of books. Wow. Didn't expect that. All right. I got it. Hang tight. I got it. So that reference, when you pull it in the footnotes, links to, let me get this off the screen so I can read it to you. My Life in Special William McRaven, My Life in Special Operations, Grand Central Publishing, 2019, 2 page 01. But when you click on the actual note, I'm pulling it up. Sorry, the computer is being a shade funky. When you pull it up on the actual note on the Kindle, it pulls to that quote, citing not McRaven, but the retired sergeant major. So there's no footnote for where that came from, which is either a mistake. I don't have an explanation for that. But that is, again, interesting to me. And the footnote either is screwed up or something went wrong there. And hopefully Seth comes out and explains that. Here's another part of what's referenced in this book. There is a term that refers to, I believe the photo he's referring to is one of Chris Van Zandt is in the photo. And in the photo, Chris has a submachine gun in his hand. This is a direct quote, and I'm reading this because I think it's important to know that the evil little smirk on his face exudes pure murder. And when I'm going to pull the photo up here, I don't want to share it because you can see it. You can see it on, all right. Yeah. Chris appears to have the submachine gun in his hands. And in the book, it says that his little smirk exudes pure murder. If this is the photo I am thinking of. This photo is out there. This is not, well, I don't even know if I can show this photo anyways because of what's on the fridge. There's some women in bikinis. I don't know what YouTube would do about that. But I know Chris Van Zandt personally. I've interviewed Chris Van Zandt. I don't believe for 1 second that Chris Van Zandt's facial expressions exude murder. I think that is a crazy way to frame a photograph. Again, it's a photograph. Chris is not on camera talking about that photo as far as I know, and I'd be shocked if this video, if such a video exists, talking about the intent to break the law or do anything like that. And please, guys, I understand I'm trying to be professional as possible. I don't want to show photos that guys might not want out there, but I will tell you, Chris is named in the footnotes by name. And in that footnote area, it is stated that, let me pull it up so I got it right. It is stated that his specific Instagram was analyzed. Okay. So again, his name is in the book. It's in the footnotes. Read into that as much as you want. I think people are asking what's the context of the photo. I will describe the photo for you. The photo is two operators. They're standing in front of a refrigerator. Both of them are dressed in what one could possibly consider local garb. They're indoors in what looks like a locker room style where your closets would be. And it's Chris Van Zandt and another guy. And Chris is they're both staring at the camera. And that's it. It's not, there's no dead bodies in the photo. They're not shooting people in the photo. And that's how I believe that's the photo Seth is referring to. Seth has shared that photo on social media previously. And Chris is named specifically in the footnotes. So I don't know what other photo he could be referring to because that's the only one I know that matches that description. So again, we don't have a footnote for the current allegation of being on something by one of the operators. When you click that footnote, it takes you to William McRaven's Sea Stories, My Life in Special Operations, which was published in 2019. That cites page 201. It does name Chris Van Zandt by name in the footnotes. And that is the part when you click that. When you click that in the footnotes, it talks about a lot of operations, what they were looking at. And if it's a different photo, then I guess I've never seen the photo. I don't know what the photo is. I believe that's the photo they're referring to. But I'm fairly confident on that. Again, we will, and it specifically says they're carrying out hits. So again, I want to be as accurate and professional as I can. We're going to need to see proof of that. We're going to need to see 100% proof that that's what they were doing, and that is indeed actually factually accurate. And maybe I'll just have to get Chris on here and ask him. We will see. All right, where we go. There's another assassination claim. On what's for me, page 72 talks about assassinating foreign fighters. Again, this term keeps coming up over and over and over and over again. Assassination means something. It has a definition. It doesn't mean killing an armed enemy combatant. It doesn't mean killing someone who's shooting at you. It doesn't mean killing someone who is a threat, right? That's not what an assassination is. What happened to JFK, that's an assassination. What's happened to other world leaders, that's an assassination. When you show up politically or religiously motivated, as the definition states, with the sole intent to kill for that reason, that's an assassination. Something every unit operator I talk to says absolutely was not how the rules of engagement worked, was absolutely not at all how they operated. They did not go on target and just start killing people. Seems like some people in the comments have found the photo. So you guys make your own calls. All right. Let's see. All right. There's also a claim in the book I'm going to go to that I could not verify. Talks about hundreds of Afghans being killed at one time, whole villages being burned up. Nobody has any recollection of unit operators killing in a single instance. We're going into this village, killing that many people or torching a village to the ground. Again, if you're going to make claims like that, we're going to need to see overwhelming proof, photos, videos. These are missions that were filmed on ISR, certainly after 03 or 02 forward. Evidence. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Not just that. We're talking about hundreds of people. It's a Tim Kennedy-esque claim, right? Think in your mind how many people 100 people is. It's a gigantic number. It is a huge, huge number. So I personally could not find any evidence of that. I couldn't find anyone to talk to me on the phone who knew about hundreds of people being taken out in single operations. Now, in the Battle of Tora Bora, is it possible that was a death toll? That's certainly possible. That's without question possible. That's not how I interpreted it when reading it. He claims in the book that over 50% of those targeted by the operators were targeted by mistake. Again, extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence. 50% is a huge number. You have to believe, for you to believe that's true, every level of this is pure incompetence. Every level of this is doing their job incorrectly. The intel guys are doing their work incorrectly. The operators are doing their work incorrectly. Their bosses are doing their work incorrectly. A 50% failure rate is a stunning number to put on this. An absolutely stunning number. And it's a number that, I can't even wrap my head around. So again, evidence, 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 evidence. Photos, videos, The evidence needs to be overwhelming. Now, he does get a couple things right, and these are things that have been talked about publicly before. Let me see if I can find a news article about this. He is right that he briefly mentions, let me put this up on the screen, how the CIA was involved in making Zero Dark 30. 1,000% correct. No question about that. Seth Harp, 100% correct on that. Not only is Seth Harp 100% correct on that, I believe there were members of SEAL Team 6 who might have consulted on that movie as well. Don't quote me on that one, but the CIA definitely was involved. He also talks in the Courtney Williams Politico piece about how, let me pull this off the screen, about how Ryan Savard was a Delta Force operator who was killed. Again, real person who was killed. We'll get into the Politico piece here in a little bit. He's right on both those counts. Ryan Savard, unit operator who died. The CIA absolutely helped make Zero Dark 30. No question about that. 100% correct both ways. Again, more. Okay. This is a part of the book that I really had an issue with, or it seemed like it was out of a James Bond movie. There's a brief mention in the book about how the unit can view remotely through a TV. Seriously? If that's a real capability, it's a capability that is absolutely stunning and, to put it lightly, a little bit beyond belief. Need to see more evidence. All right. There's also talk, and I'm trying to keep things as broad as possible here, and I want to give them credit where credit is due. There is brief mention of guys stealing money. 100% accurate. That guys in the U.S. military in a variety of units stole money. A lot of the times it was stolen from funds that were being used to pay things locally. That has been explained to me from people in all different units. I'm not saying guys in the unit did it. I'm not saying specific guys did it at all. What I am saying is there are well-known documented cases, including, I believe, with the 2 SEAL Team 6 guys in Africa that got in trouble, of money being taken or something being billed out, and then only a certain amount was paid and the rest of it was pocketed. That was something that allegedly and reportedly, very publicly, did 100% occur. So Seth is right about some stuff. And some people watching this might not want to hear that. They might want to think Seth was wrong about everything or wrong about 99% of it. There are significant chunks of this book that Seth got right. Fact of the matter, Seth got many things in this book right. Now, do I believe he got them all right? No. Hold on real quick. I got to go turn on my air. I'll be right back. Fire away in the comments. I'll be right back. I got to turn on my AC, which now does work. I'm starting to sweat a little bit. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Hang tight. All right, I'm back. Another thing that Seth briefly mentions that he is correct on in part, and I've made videos about this before, I've talked about this before, and that is he briefly mentions in an over the border raid or how they'd cross the border into Syria. The Abu Kamal raid, which we've discussed at length, the 2008 raid in Syria, was done by members of Delta Force. 100% true, 100% accurate. Now, I don't believe that's named specifically, but that did happen. Delta Force operators did go from Iraq into Syria in 2008 before we were officially in Syria, and they did kill a high-value target. I believe the guy's name, and I'm going to butcher this. I know I'm going to butcher it. It's something like Abu Gaida. I will pull up the Wikipedia page about that. Let me share this for you. So, as you can see here, this is a real 2008 raid inside Syria. Again, credit where credit is due. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the whole book is incorrect. This happened. This was in Syria, and it happened before the U.S. had an official presence there. That's the fact of the matter. So, let me see something real quick. Having said that, I believe the way it's characterized, talking about Syrian guards, I'm sorry, allow me to apologize. Allow me to apologize. That is, he does not say guard. So I'm wrong on that. I'll stop myself. I'll correct myself right now. Or actually, wait a second. Maybe, all right. So he's talking about different things. Allow me to correct myself. That was something else. So he does talk about targets, specifically an ISIS guy, and he says the words Syrian guards. I don't know if he means like local ISIS Syrian members or members of Bashar al-Assad's Syrian military, because I'd be shocked if an ISIS leader, Abu Saif, who I believe Kyle Morgan in his Shawn Ryan interview talked about at length, the mission to get that guy who at one point in time had Kayla Mueller, the hostage. I don't believe for one second that guy was being guarded by the Syrian military. But Assad wanted nothing to do with ISIS at all, not even a little bit. He wanted those guys gone as much as everybody else did, because like all dictators, now his reasons might have been different. Like all dictators, terrorists represent a threat to his power and his regime. So he is not going to be receptive to them at all. So another thing that just kind of stuck out a little bit too much. Here's a huge, huge, huge mistake in the book. Huge mistake. And if we're going to give Seth the benefit of the doubt, the mistake was an accidental one on the way he worded it. If we're not going to give him the benefit of the doubt, he just got the facts 1,000% wrong. And when it comes to that, it is the death of ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, who was killed in a daring raid deep in Syria. And he was killed when he had an S-vest on and he ran down a tunnel with two civilians. President Trump has openly talked about this, and detonated the S-vest, killing himself and the children tragically who were with him. Next ISIS leader who died blew himself up too and took a lot of people out in the building he was in. This claims the operators killed him. That is not accurate. That is not accurate. The Delta Force operators in both missions did not shoot either of those two men, either Baghdadi or the person who followed him. Not accurate. Both died in explosions. Baghdadi being the much more famous one. Baghdadi also detonating his vest, or whatever you want to call it, on his own accord when he knew it was over. Those guys wanted to take him alive without question. They wanted to take him alive because they desperately wanted to question him. Now, would they have taken him alive if they saw he had an S-vest or he had a weapon? Obviously not. They would have killed him on the spot. I think that's a fair assessment, but they didn't kill him. He committed you know what, because he knew it was over. He knew he was trapped. And as Trump said, he died like a coward, sobbing, sniveling, died like a dog. So that in and of itself right there is not accurate at all. He was not killed by unit operators. That is a fact. Don't take my word for it. The president of the United States went on TV and told everyone what happened. So on that point, Seth is dead wrong. There is also a part in the book where I believe it's in relation to Billy Levine. They would gather around to watch helmet cam video. And he notes that the footage would be classified. Well, what I would say to Seth is, doesn't the fact that these guys would watch this video completely contradict the idea that their missions weren't filmed? The two things can't be true at the same time. You can't have guys watching classified footage, and you can't have it that none of this was recorded at all. It's one or the other, right? As I said, we know ISR footage existed. That's not up for debate. We know that happened. We know these missions had ISR coverage. We know guys would wear helmet cams. We've seen footage. We know it exists. Would that footage be classified? It almost certainly always would be, because you don't want to expose your TTPs. You don't want to expose what you're doing. You don't want to give the enemy help figuring out your tactics. But in the book, you can't have it both ways. Either these missions were filmed and people reviewed the video footage, had the video footage, whether it's ISR or camera, helmet cam, or they weren't and everything was hidden. Again, it's tiny details like these that, to me, are difficult to explain. Now, I'm going to put the Politico article up on the screen for you all here. For those of you who remember this. All right. Let me get this up on the screen for you. This is from the Courtney Williams piece. This piece, for those of you who don't know, is about a woman named Courtney Williams who worked as a contractor at the unit. I am in the process right now of attempting to get any and all records related to Courtney Williams' time. I am not going to weigh in on many of the claims. I just realized there's something on the screen that can't be, that said that YouTube won't like, so I got to scroll down a little bit. There was a reference that was a little bit R-rated. So this point's been brought up to me by a couple people. It says, I think that's pronounced besotted. I don't even know. A besotted sergeant major often seen walking around with a beer in one hand and a tomahawk in the other, once punctuated his declarations of affection by hurling his axe into the wall. Here's what people have told me and why that story on the surface has some red flags. Do you all know what the unit building is made out of? Where the Delta Force is located at Fort Bragg? Do you all know what it's constructed out of? It's cinder block. It's a cinder block building, which means it would be rather difficult to get an axe stuck in the building, right? I mean, you'd have to have the strongest axe and probably the world's strongest man to get through concrete and cinder block. Again, not saying it's not possible something like that happen. Throwing an axe into a cinder block wall is incredible. So there's another part down here in this Politico piece that guys find a bit, I don't want to say comical, because none of this is funny, to be quite honest with you. So I'm going to read this paragraph. It says, given enough time, anyone who had adverse dealings with an entity like Delta Force will inevitably drift into paranoia. Williams was sitting at a traffic light in Fayetteville when it first occurred to her that she was mired in a rancorous legal dispute with an organization that kills people in secret. The question of whether she was putting her own life at risk necessarily followed. Am I going to be one of those people, she asked herself, who dies in a car crash and it's not really a car crash? What's the implication there? What is the implication there? That the unit is going to domestically kill someone for having an issue with them. That the unit is going to take someone out because of a dispute. The unit doesn't kill people domestically. It's not what it does. It's not a rogue element of the United States military. They don't murder people over disputes. These guys, again, have lawyers and criminal investigators who work there, and the criminal investigators are outside their chain of command. They run their own investigations. So, is it possible Courtney Williams believed this? It's certainly possible. Is it realistic that would ever happen? Not in a million years, in my opinion. Not in a million years do I think the U.S. Army Special Operations would kill someone domestically to keep them quiet. That, in theory, could be an assassination if it's politically motivated, for sure. All right, let's keep it appropriate in the comments, guys. We can't have horrible language in the comments. YouTube will not like that. All right, let's make sure I didn't miss anything. Here's the other piece about this that was a bit odd to me. And again, not to say it didn't happen, but I'll tell you why this jumped off the page at me a little bit. It says some operators, said Williams, were more mature and resented the madhouse atmosphere. Ryan Savard, who was killed by machine gun fire in Kunduz, is that how you pronounce that? Let me know in the comments. In 2012, 100% true. Ryan Savard was killed in 2012. He had shifted over to a team and was killed shortly thereafter in machine gun fire. Was one of them, she recalled. He'd come down and talk to me about this a lot. He wanted to start a family and be faithful to his wife, and was annoyed by the unit's aggressively virile culture of philandering, seduction, and conquest. I'm so frustrated with the fraternity-like mentality, she quoted Savard as saying, but no one in their right mind would choose to leave Delta and go back to the regular Army. Williams said, because at Delta, you didn't have to be at work at 9. As long as you got your training paperwork and pre-deployment stuff done, you could show up whenever you felt like it. So even if they were sick of the culture, they'd vent to me about it, but they'd rather die than go back to the regular Army. Here's the problem with that. Ryan Savard has been dead for 13 years. Using somebody who is not alive to fact check a claim about whether or not these comments had been made is a little bit of, I don't want to say amateur. It's just not overly professional. Dead people can't tell their stories. They're dead. Nobody can call them up and ask them if this is true. If there was an alive person and they were able to be called, that would make a lot of sense. Again, could be true, might not be true, but the reality is Ryan Savard's not here to speak about it. And that is, at a minimum, a bit odd to me. Give me 1 second. It's a bit odd to me. Again, not something I'm going to sit here and tell you with 100% certainty is one way or the other, because I don't know. But as a general rule, you don't want to use dead people for information like that, or quote them when they can't be fact checked. Like I said, I'm not going to weigh in on a lot of this Courtney Williams stuff until I get her files. I will then read them, and if and when the Army did say they were going to give them to me, the Army indicated that that was likely going to happen. Of course, the Army also indicated they were going to give me Tim Kennedy's records, and that never happened. So, I'm just telling you what they're telling me. I'll read them. I'll see what's in them, whatever in them. I will share publicly for everyone. Courtney Williams wants to call me. I will absolutely take her phone call. I've been trying to get in touch with her. Unfortunately, have not been able to. The name is very common, and thus it's been a little bit difficult. I will also say the stunning thing about the Politico article is the TTPs and methods that are just made public for no real reason. It is not advantageous to anybody to let the world know how members of a highly secretive organization do, how they move, how they operate in the sense of getting from point A to point B, how they might have different names, things like that. That to me, I thought was incredibly irresponsible for Politico to publish. I think Seth made a mistake by putting in that book. You could have told the Courtney Williams story without that being in there. And I don't think it would have changed much from a sense of what Seth was trying to get across. So let's see if I have any other notes from the book. I think that's pretty much, let me go to this one real quick. Just make sure it's not something I already covered. Oh, so yeah, again, he refers to them again as a death squad, quote, death squad dedicating to covertly liquidating the male population base of, that's a big word for me, recalcitrant ethnic and tribal groups that resist U.S. military occupation. Again, with the death squad assassinations, these are words that mean something. A person is going to pick this book up and think that these guys were a bunch of rogue killers when nothing can be further from the truth. Multiple unit operators summed it up the same way. We're not paid to kill people. We're paid to not shoot people. We are a hostage rescue force at our core. It's what we do. And you can't really do that job if you're out there just killing everyone you come across. You also need people alive for intelligence. You can't question dead people, as we just spoke about, right? Can't do it. You need people alive to talk to. Otherwise, who are you going to get your information from? And furthermore, I will say, in any organization, you're going to have bad apples. People who don't belong there are going to slip through. People who might have started belonging there are going to maybe change to where they don't belong there anymore. if you read this book, and I'd encourage you all to read it. I'm not telling you not to read it. Read the book, view it through your own lens, and make the determinations of what you think. And like I've said, Seth did get a lot of things in this book are accurate. There's other things that lack adequate sourcing, in my opinion, don't provide proper evidence, in my opinion. But you get this sense from the book. I'll pull this off the screen. You get this sense in the book that Delta will not fire people in order to protect them or whatever, that problems aren't removed. I can tell you for a fact, it's the exact opposite. The unit will fire people all the time at the first sign of a problem. All the time. Happens regularly. And several famous Delta Force operators who are out in the public did not leave the unit voluntarily. Some of them have been open about it, have given interviews about why they had to leave. And many of them were phenomenal operators. As one guy told me in an interview years ago, doesn't matter if you're there for 2 days or 20 years. You can be fired, and you will be fired for the first sign of a significant issue, because the unit's goal is operational success, protecting national security. It's not for babysitting people. It's not for covering and making for excuses for people. You can get your ass fired from Delta in a heartbeat, if something goes wrong. So, that's what my takeaway from the books were. But we've also got some tweets to go over here that I thought were not great. Let me go ahead and put this up on the screen for you. All right. I'm going to throw this up here. So Seth yesterday on Monday at 8:24 a.m. Eastern time tweeted, in April 2006, in a Shia mosque in Baghdad, JSOC guys in Iraqi uniforms attacked a mosque at night, effing massacred everybody there. Innocent men, innocent civilians. That's an important point. I showed up the morning after and saw brains splattered for the first time. It says, comment from a foreign journalist on my book. He includes 2 photos. The one on the left, I believe, is from Afghanistan. The one on the right is, I believe, of Green Berets, actually. And as you can see, he's got Bob Keller's face unblurred. I feel that was very reckless for a couple of reasons. Number one, Bob Keller was not in the unit at the time. Anyone's going to look at this tweet. So I can tell you with certainty, nobody I talk to has any idea what this story is about. And the idea they dressed up as Iraqis, they all said absolutely never happened. And they said, from a logic standpoint, if we dress up as Iraqis, every American service member that we encounter, we're going to have to deal with like we might be a hostile force. Every dude on a 50 cal might see us coming, looking like Iraqis, get quick on the trigger and smoke us. So from a logic standpoint, they all said it doesn't even make sense to begin with. Number two, you included a guy who wasn't even at the unit when this alleged April 2006 incident occurred. I scoured the internet for any information about a mosque shooting in Baghdad in April 2006. Could not find anything. There was an April 7th, 2006 attack with bombers that did kill a lot of people, was not carried out by Americans, was carried out by terrorists. And so I pressed Seth a little bit. And what I said to Seth was this. Let me put it up on the screen for you there. I said, that's a photo of Bob Keller, who wasn't even in the unit in 2006. 100% true. Are you alleging by showing a photo of Bob Keller that he participated in this alleged massacre, which no proof exists of happening, before he was a unit operator? Seth says, no, it's merely an illustration of JSOC operators in plain clothes in Iraq. Again, I believe Bob Keller at the time, I believe this photo is of Green Berets who are not JSOC members. So not even correct on that point. I know it says CAG in it, but I believe those are that photo at the time is of Green Berets. Here's why this is reckless, in my opinion. A person is going to look at that photo and see a guy in it and believe he must have been involved. Now, Seth does come back and clarify it's merely an illustration of JSOC operators in plain clothes in Iraq. But you used a real person. You used the face of a real person who not only was not in the unit at the time, that photo doesn't even appear to be a photo of unit operators at all. Now, Bob did go to the unit. I've interviewed Bob twice. Bob is a hilarious dude, was in the unit at one point in his career. Proud American, rock solid dude. By all accounts, was a great operator. You can't be using real people's photos in a tweet alleging a massacre at a mosque where innocent people were killed. It's reckless. It's not good journalism. It's also just not a common sense thing to do. Because someone's going to see that photo and say that the guy must have been involved. And he wasn't. And Bob Keller, in no shape or form, and I don't know if Seth reached out to Bob Keller. I somehow doubt it. But maybe he did. Maybe Seth has proof of that. I somehow doubt it. But he's tweeting out about massacres, and he's including photos of real people. Insanely reckless, in my opinion. Insanely reckless. And as you can see with my response here, I said, classy. Way to tweet out a guy's photo in a tweet about a massacre he had nothing to do with if it did happen. And again, can't find any proof that it did. And he responds with, okay, tell me what you think this dude was doing in Iraq. His job? Is the implication there that he was somehow breaking the law and operating outside the rules of engagement? Bob Keller's pretty easily accessible. He's not a secret dude. He's one of the more public unit members out there. And again, this photo is apparently from when he was a Green Beret. Again, something to keep in mind. That tweet to me is one of the more reckless things that Seth has done, and probably more reckless than anything in his book. But let me pull this up. Throw this on the screen for you. So he says, active duty U.S. Army soldiers should not be deploying overseas disguised as civilians, but that's exactly what Delta Force exists to do. Many tips are coming in that buttress what I wrote in the Fort Bragg cartel about JSOC Black Ops. It says JSOC and Delta did the same thing in Somalia, by the way, disguising themselves as humanitarian workers. The way they deployed to Ethiopia was by C-130 military planes flying into Dire Dawa, disguised as flood relief and humanitarian aid shipments. I talked to a JSOC operator who spent a significant, hold on, I gotta reposition my chair quick. I spoke to a JSOC operator who had operated extensively in Somalia. He says he has never heard of, personally seen, or ever participated in disguise in Somalia. They operated in regular combat kit. They operated clearly as Americans with big ass American flags on them. And he has no idea what that tweet or text is about at all. So I think that's pretty much it I believe, on the Seth Harp book. So my takeaway, and I told you I would be fair. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments what you think of my perspective on it. And again, I'm not discouraging you guys to go read the book. You might read it and come away thinking completely different stuff than I do. You might read it and think that Seth makes a lot of great points, and these holes that I see and the people I talk to see aren't actually there. The dude wrote a book. He wrote a book, which is not easy to do. My takeaways are this. I think Seth Harp got things right, and people might not be happy to hear that. And I think Seth Harp got things wrong. And I think Seth Harp didn't provide evidence for some of his most damning claims that, these guys are all on a bunch of drugs, amphetamines, that they're just out there killing people nonstop. Extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence. And we know ISR filmed these missions. Now, the videos aren't readily available. They're not on the internet everywhere. But you have to believe, in order to believe some of these claims, everybody was involved in what was going on and in the cover-up. So maybe you guys will read the book and come away with a completely different interpretation of it. I hope Seth comes on here and addresses this, and we can talk about it. And maybe he will provide more evidence. And he has, I'm going to email his publicist soon. I had emailed him. I don't know why I have to go through his publicist. I don't think I've ever done that for an interview. I don't think I've ever done that for an interview once. But, I don't know if Seth Harp is a good guy, bad guy. He wrote a book, and he made serious claims in the book. Claims about the dog eating brains, which again, Billy Levine might have said that. I don't know. But just because a guy who we've proven by Seth's own research to not be credible or trustworthy does not mean because he said it, it's true. And it's really that simple. So again, I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. We're going to move on to a couple other subjects. Let me know if you think my analysis is correct, if you agree with my analysis, if you totally disagree with my analysis. That's totally fine too. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to present the evidence, claims that he made in his book, the claims that were made in the excerpts. That is up for you guys to decipher. And the book, as I said, is selling incredibly well. He clearly struck a chord. He clearly wrote about something that has a ton of public interest. And maybe when he talks about drug use, that'll help people get help who need it. And if that happens, that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing at all. So we got a super chat here real quick. It says, will the TK saga ever come to an end? Yeah, well, we got some TK stuff here coming up shortly. The answer to that is it'll come to an end when Tim Kennedy fully apologizes and takes complete and total responsibility for everything he's done and admits to every and all lie he said. At that point, Tim Kennedy will absolutely, everyone will move on. And I don't think anyone will care at that point. Yeah, that's how I see that. All right. So now that we've talked about that, I want to talk about Trump, Ukraine, Putin, Zelensky, all of that. Let me throw it. Did you guys see this? So as you know, Trump and Putin met in Alaska. They were talking about bringing the war to Ukraine in an end. And no matter what you think about Trump, you like him, you dislike him, you love him, you hate him. This dude put on a show of power that is hilarious. What did he do? He flew a B-2 stealth bomber and F-22 fighter jets right over Putin's head. And I'll explain why that's so badass here shortly. That will never not be cool. So Russia has 0 stealth bombers. They have 10 stealth fighters. Nobody knows how well they work or if they work at all. And the radar signature on the Su-57 is massive. It's absolutely massive. So I'm looking at some of your comments coming in, and I appreciate you guys who comment. I appreciate you guys who give your opinion, even if I disagree with it. If it's all respectful and we're just having a back and forth, you're more than welcome to disagree with me. Also, always a super appreciate everyone who super chats. It's huge. Helps us keep the lights on, pay for the filming system we use, StreamYard. And so it doesn't go untested. And so Trump forces Putin to look at this aircraft technology that the Russians couldn't dream of having. So he's setting the tone early. He's like, hey, Vladimir, look up in the sky. You see those planes? That B-2's 30 years old and still more advanced than anything you have in your arsenal. Still more advanced than anything you could ever create. So I like that a lot. However, Trump followed that up with something I didn't really like. And I'll put that on the screen for you right now. So Trump gets asked about what involvement the United States might have in the war in Ukraine and whether or not troops might get involved. And he doesn't shut it down right away.
Your team has talked about security guarantees. Could that involve U.S. troops? Would you roll that out in the future?
We'll let you know that maybe later today. We're meeting with 7 great leaders of great countries also, and we'll be talking about that. They'll all be involved, but there'll be a lot of help. When it comes to security, there's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe. But we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
All right. So does not rule out troops getting involved. We cannot, under any circumstance, let U.S. troops go to Ukraine. Hell no. Absolutely not. This is not for the United States to be putting troops on the ground. Not even close. It's a ridiculous thing to even entertain. It is a ridiculous thing to even suggest. And I was stunned that Trump didn't immediately shut that down because it's such an unbelievably bad idea. Let me pull this up for you. However, they kind of walked it back a little bit. Trump appeared on Fox News this morning, and he talks about how it might be more of an air power thing.
You know, they're consumed far more with this than we are because they're right there. You know, we have an ocean that's separating us, right? Thing called an ocean, a big, beautiful ocean. And they don't, you know, they're right there. So they have to, you know, it's a different kind of a thing for them. When it comes to security, they're willing to put people on the ground. We're willing to help them with things, especially probably if you talk about by air, because nobody has the kind of stuff we have. Really, they don't have. But
so now Trump pivots to it might be more of an air thing. It might be more of an air no-fly zone type situation. Again, by the way, this is a tweet from Reagan Reese. Reagan and I think we're at the Daily Call at the same time. If not, we just barely would have passed each other. Great reporter, very entertaining person, very good softball player. So make sure to give Reagan a follow on social media too. She's very good at her job. White House reporter for the Daily Caller. She's the one who tweeted this. Again, hell no. We do not need American fighter jets ripping through the air of Ukraine. What's going to happen if a U.S. fighter jet gets shot down? What's going to happen if a U.S. airman pilot gets killed? We are going to be living in a different world. And as bad as Russia's Air Force is, and it's bad, their air defense systems are advanced. They chose to invest in that over investing in more modern aircraft. They had to make a choice. They didn't have the money for both like the United States does. So what do? They invest in highly advanced air defense systems that they claim can shoot down stealth planes. I'm very skeptical of that, but not something I want to test right now. So no, we should not be sending troops to Ukraine. We shouldn't be sending U.S. fighter jets to Ukraine to fly and patrol the skies and engage the Russians. None of that should be happening. If there's a discussion to be had about money, or there's a discussion to be had about supplies, so be it. Troops and airplanes patrolling Ukrainian skies, absolutely not. And then there's one more clip of this I also want to show.
So you are saying that President Trump is considering U.S. pilots and U.S. aircraft potentially supporting European or Ukrainian forces?
The president spoke to that himself this morning when he called into Fox and Friends, and I would defer you to his answer. You can read it directly yourself.
In addition, can I ask, no boots on the ground, Steve Witkoff's talking about Article 5-like security guarantees. Can you talk about what other Article 5-like security guarantees that are being considered if it's not boots on the ground?
These are very sensitive diplomatic discussions that are currently taking place literally as we speak. So I will leave it to the national security team, and I'll leave it to the president to have those private discussions with these leaders as we try to bring this war to an end.
Nope. No. Absolutely not. Hell no. No U.S. troops in Ukraine. No U.S. planes patrolling Ukrainian skies against the Russians. Absolutely not. It is insanely dumb. Let the Europeans do it. And if we want to help them do it, that's a totally different discussion. Not one U.S. soldier, not one U.S. plane. It is not worth the worst case scenario. It's just not. Now, I'm going to go grab a beer quick. Let me pull this off the screen. I'm going to go grab a beer quick. And then we've got some Tim Kennedy updates. We've got a huge Tim Kennedy update. Let me be right back. All right, I'm back. Hang tight. All right, I'm back. So our good friend Tim Kennedy, our good friend Tim Kennedy. So, I see Valhalla's in the comments. So I actually, there we go. Valhalla, I got to give a huge shout out to him. That dude was one of the big time people leading the way on the Tim Kennedy nonsense. Him, Brent, and Tyler over at Antihero, Stolen Valor _ the truth on Instagram also has been digging up a gold mine of information. Oh, shit. Hold on. So a random person sent me this on Monday night. I'm going to put this on my screen here for y'all. Let me throw this up on my screen. Give me one quick second. All righty. What do we see here? Look at the top of your screen. Oh, there's John Shrek McPhee's interview is right underneath him. Apparently, John Shrek McPhee has a book coming out. It's called The Singleton. And I will be very curious what is in the Singleton book. And we'll see. I mean, it'll probably be all over the internet very soon. Give me 1 second. All right. Can you all see the Shawn Ryan thumbnail and headline? So this started going viral on Monday, which I must be when he changed it. I don't know, but I had a guy drop it into my Instagram DMs and he was like, hey, Shawn Ryan changed his Tim Kennedy thing. It now says Tim Kennedy under investigation for false Bronze Star with Valor claim. The thumbnail now says under investigation for stolen valor. And it gets better. When you click on the video and you scroll down, this part had already been there. What's highlighted right there, where he says, while we strive for accuracy, some statements made by our guests may later be found to be verifiably false. We encourage listeners to critically evaluate the content and conduct their own research on the topics discussed. We take the issue of stolen valor extremely seriously. Oh, so this is where it gets new. Yeah. It says, we take the issue of stolen valor extremely seriously, and we want to be clear. The false claims of one guest will not undermine the integrity of the many veterans who have joined us and shared their stories truthfully. Ooh, Nate, do you want me to highlight that on the screen? Respond if you want that highlighted on the screen, and I'll throw it up there for you. But wait, the Timmy K stuff gets even more entertaining because I got to find the clip. I wasn't planning on showing this, but it's too good not to. Let me make sure I got the right one. All right, let me share this for you. This is another Tim Kennedy banger, absolute banger of a video.
I have to live a different life. You know, I'm so Special Forces sniper, a Ranger qualified Green Beret that's on countless kill lists.
I'm sorry, what was that, Tim? You're on countless kill lists because you're a Green Beret sniper, Ranger qualified Green Beret sniper. Get the F out of here. Countless kill lists. This dude, I'm sorry, there are a lot of people in the U.S. with big platforms who did a lot more in war than Tim Kennedy. And I don't know about any of them talking about being on countless kill lists. Absolutely effing outrageous thing for him to say. This dude's ego probably, and you can see right here, Stolen Valor _ the truth. I believe he, again, dug this one up. That guy has his ability. The dude belongs in the CIA, his ability to track stuff down. Then there's another one right here.
So I've been in Special Forces for 15 years.
15 years. This interview came out in 2016. That would mean he's been in Special Forces since 2001. In the caption, it says he didn't go to boot camp until 2004. Math was never my strong suit, but 2004 plus 15 would make it 2019, which means doesn't make any sense.
I'm at the end of my current enlistment, and I can either re-enlist and be in death till my retirement, or I could get out right now. I was resolute that had Hillary Clinton been elected, I was not going to re-enlist. Wow. I had seen and I have worked with the State Department.
This is about to take a crazy turn. When I first watched this clip, I had no idea where Tim was going with this. Wait.
And I have seen what it means to work for her, and I was not going to work for her. I've had friends die working for her.
What friends, Tim? What were their names? If you're going to say that out loud, give us their names.
Like, this is real. I mean, this is not like some vestigial thing that I'm saying that is meaningless, that has no purpose, that has no point. This is like personal. Like I know guys that died working for her. I know guys that were sitting on planes ready to go save lives, and they couldn't go because they weren't allowed to go.
And is this referring to Benghazi?
Yeah. This is my era. I've been in Special Forces for 15 years, and we're talking about one of the first losses of an American ambassador since the 70s, since Iran. And I'm going to re-enlist. Not because of Trump, but because it's not her.
Well, guys, feel free to sound off in the comments about that gem. Let me put the Shawn Ryan thing back up here quickly. Nate says it's good to go to throw him up on the screen. So Nate has said that he has been in. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong one. I wanted to put the other one up on the screen. Nate is in the comments saying he may or may not have been invited me on his show today. So Nate might have the Shawn Ryan show invite. It sounds like he does. I think that'd be awesome. And then he says, Shawn left a comment on my last live, literally inviting me public. So why not? That will be epic. Nate has done some great work. Dude's platform has exploded over the past few months in popularity. So if you're not already following him, and I'm sure if you're watching me, you already are. That guy's YouTube channels, now he has a second one. I believe it's called American Thor. Nate, correct me if I'm wrong on that. His channels have exploded, and he's doing hilarious and great work on a variety of different topics. So only Tim Kennedy could make Benghazi about himself. Only Tim Kennedy could make a tragic event where 4 Americans died somehow about himself. The ego is nothing short of incredible. But I want to give Shawn Ryan major props. It would have been easy for Shawn Ryan just to delete the episode. Would have been easy for Shawn Ryan to not address it. He's got a huge platform. Not addressing it wouldn't really probably have impacted his audience. Deleting the episode might have been a news story for like a day or two, like Jocko when Jocko did it. But it never would have been enough to slow Shawn Ryan down. Shawn Ryan is on a different planet when it comes to doing interviews. He has built an insane following. What's that say on the screen? He's got 4.78 million subscribers. I mean, he's one of the most popular podcasters on the planet. Instead, he makes the decision to not just correct the record. He makes the decision to effing bury Tim Kennedy. I don't know why. I've never spoken to Shawn Ryan. We have a couple of mutual friends. They love the guy. They swear up and down that he's a great dude. I'll take their word for it. I've never met him again. He seems like a nice guy. Why do I think Shawn Ryan did that? Why do I think Shawn Ryan went out of his way to bury Tim Kennedy? My guess, and this is speculation on my part, it's a guess, he probably didn't appreciate Tim Kennedy coming on his podcast and sharing stories that turned out to be an utter joke, immediately denounced by his teammates. That makes the podcast host look like a joke as well. So my guess is Shawn's probably been angry for a while, frustrated for a while, and then he just decided, nuke him. I'm going to change the thumbnail to embarrass this guy. I'm going to, well, maybe not embarrass this guy. I'm going to change his thumbnail to get the truth out there. I'm going to do a lot of things. So good for Shawn Ryan. It's easy to dip out. It's easy to say nothing. It's easy to hide. And he didn't. He absolutely did not. So good for him. All right. We're coming up here on 2 hours. I got to get to bed soon. I did just want to say for everyone, I did get back from Vegas. Vegas was an absolute blast. It was a ton of fun. Let me see if I can find some cool pictures to throw up on the screen for y'all. Or actually I can do this. I was in Vegas, got to shoot some machine guns. So this was pretty neat. Let me throw this up on the screen for you. We went to the 702 range, or range 702. I believe it's called. So let me see if I can add this to the stage. So I got to shoot a saw. Let's see if I can. So that was neat. And then I got to shoot the MP5. Not bad, right? Now, some people were making fun of me. They were like, oh, the target's not very far out. Yeah, I didn't set the target range, guys. The range safety officer, who was awesome, was absolutely awesome. Great help. Made it a fun time for everybody. Helped make sure everything we wanted to do, we could do, which was really, really neat. I'm going to pull up a couple cool photos for you here. We'll get a couple cool ones. We'll throw them up on the screen for you, so you guys can see some of the stuff I did in Vegas. Give me a second. I'm grabbing the photos. All right. Let me throw some of these on the screen. So I got to take this cool photo at night. That is Las Vegas up in the sky at night. Pretty cool. I mean, you get to see all the resorts. You get to see the Bellagio fountains are going off, I think, in that photo. Lots of cool stuff that we got to do. And I love Las Vegas. I absolutely love Las Vegas. Now people are saying I have small arms. People are saying I have small arms. Yeah, I don't have the biggest biceps in the world, but you know what? I'm not going to lie about it. I know who I am. And yes, I don't have very big arms. I love this photo though. You got the Flamingo, you got the Bellagio, you got Caesars, you got Paris. I think you can see the Cosmo off in the distance there. It is a really cool city. And I went on the best gambling run of my life. I got cleaned out early in like the first hour. I was getting my butt kicked. I was getting absolutely destroyed. Oh, now look at this. You see what I deal with? Let me put this on the screen. Now it's comedy hour for everyone. Someone says that's what small arms fires mean, right? Yeah, my tiny little biceps. That's me with the saw. I've got my Outkick shirt on. And again, the guys at the 702 range made it just an epic time. We were going to go to Battlefield Vegas, but a fire apparently started there and it was closed, so we couldn't. But great time. That's me with the saw. And then here's me with the we went axe throwing. I've got my Red Dawn shirt on, got a couple hatchet in the hands, just having a great time with the boys, got my American flag hat on. So I want to tell you, first off, I enjoyed your arm jokes. My fiance is probably outside in a different room hearing those laughing her ass off right now. So just know you've brought joy to at least one person tonight. Hang on. So I went to Cosmo, started gambling, got destroyed. Went to Virgin, the hotel, which I think was maybe it was the old Hard Rock. I don't really remember. And went on an insane run. And I want to give a little bit of a shout out here to the cocktail waitress who was responsible for serving the drinks. Cocktail waitresses in Vegas have gotten very slow. I don't know why. It seems like every year I go, they get slower and slower and slower. And that woman was on her game. I mean, she was right there doing her job, crushing it. I was tipping her well, which is probably why she kept coming back. Maybe, I don't know, that's speculation. But man, I love Las Vegas. It's a great place. It's a ton of fun. The boys, we went to this place. I think it's called the Sand Diamond. It is this dive bar with like pool tables and stuff and pizza. One of the best events we did all trip. We sat there for a few hours talking about politics, World War II, relationships, anything you can think of, the boys were talking about, and it was relatively cheap, which you always like to see. It's right down the street from Golden Tiki, another great place as well. So I'm going to just be on here for a couple more minutes. If you have any questions about the book, the Fort Bragg cartel, if you have any questions whatsoever, now's the time to send them in. We've got one from Nick Sherman here. Oops, wrong one. That's just someone laughing. Off topic, but has there been any information about why the DoD went with DevGru instead of Ground Branch for the UBL ray? It was a CIA op after all. I don't have an answer to that. My guess is SEAL Team 6 is probably more qualified to run a compound assault than the CIA Ground Branch is. And I would bet it's probably not even close. That's what they do. That's what SEAL Team 6 and Delta Force exists to do. I think the better question is why they sent the SEALs than Delta, and not that one is more qualified than the other, but that would be a more interesting question that I think guys would be interested in. All right, we got a super chat. You look like a wheelchair basketball player, respectfully. I'm taller than a wheelchair basketball player. I'm about 6 feet tall, but I don't weigh very much. I'm not very big. My fiance would probably tell you I have a little bit of a beer belly. I will neither confirm nor deny that publicly. But I think I'm a little bit better than a wheelchair basketball player, but I appreciate the $5. It's always appreciated. All right. David, do you realize that that's veterans make jokes just like that because we love you and we stand by you whenever you need us? Hey, man, no, I know it's all in good fun. I'm having a ton of fun with it. Trust me, it takes a lot to get me offended. It takes a lot to get me offended. You guys, I know it's all playful fun. We're out here having a blast. So no, keep the jokes coming. I am not the kind of person who can't laugh at myself. I laugh at myself all the time. I appreciate the support from everybody. I appreciate the support from everyone who reached out when Seth and I got into a little bit of a back and forth. I appreciate all of it. You guys are the best. Huntsman Ranch says, thank you for the time and analysis of the book. I'm happy to do it. I just told you guys what I thought. I gave you my honest opinion of it. Again, and I'm going to repeat this again because I know people might clip things and try to say that I thought the whole book was BS. Nope, not true. Not true at all. I gave credit to Seth where credit was due. I gave credit to Seth on what he got right, and Seth got a lot of things right. There were multiple things in that book that were 100% accurate. No question about it. And there were things that I thought didn't pass the smell test to me. So we'll see. I'm excited and curious to get Courtney Williams' files. And I'll be very curious what is in those files. And if any of the allegations are well documented. And if there's anything in those files to back up that article. Because the article makes incredibly troubling claims, right? The article makes insanely troubling claims. So we shall see. So here you go. Valhalla says, I'm doing a review of it tomorrow. So we'll all have to check that out. We shall see. I'll be curious to see what Valhalla thinks. Be curious to see. And let me throw this on the screen. There's more truth to a lot of it than I'd like to admit, unfortunately. And that is what I said in parts of the video. I think, Nate, you got on long after that. There is no question, zero question, parts of that book are 100% true. And I focus mostly on like the war claims and claims about mass unaliving and all of this stuff and things like that. I don't know enough to know about the drug running or anything like that. Billy Levine, Seth certainly seems to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, was involved in a lot of very bad things. And I gave Seth credit for what he was able to find. My focus was more on whether or not things he had said in combat were realistic with modern technology, ISR, specific events, an alleged massacre of innocent people at a mosque, all these wearing drag, all of this stuff. So I hope to talk to Seth, and I hope that he is able to come on. So I'll be very interested to check out Nate's video I know a lot of you guys watching this will as well. And that's probably going to be it for me today. If you guys enjoyed the video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on the book in the video, in the comments. And as always, hanging out with you guys is the best part of my week. I always love it, always enjoy it. So thank you for coming in. Thanks for coming in with an open mind, and thanks for being able to hear what I thought and give me your opinion as well. As always, I will see y'all next time. Have a good one, everyone.